solidarity notes, labor choir, for your beautiful solidarity notes. With all the love, all the passion, all the soul that you are bringing to this toxic tour. A little bit about the tour, just before we start heading to the tour itself. And now that we have all the other tourists that are here to visit our city and to get to know, to get to learn what is going on in terms of the mining corporations here in the so-called Vancouver. There? Is it better there? Okay, here is kind of loud, but can you hear me now? Good! You can hear me now! Okay, so this toxic tour, you will be able to see and witness many creative performances and very informative performances as well, testimonials and presentations from the Tibetan, Filipino, Mayan and Latin American communities and indigenous peoples from unceded territories of BC. Just to give you some examples of what you're going to see in the tour, we'll have Angelica Choc from the Mayan Quechí, La Unión, El Estor, in Guatemala. I know she is there somewhere. And you're also going to be able to listen from Bob Fulkerson, a progressive leader from the Alliance of Nevada, and Freda Hudson from the Uniston spokesperson, and Togesti, hereditary chief. Also, Luis Corral from the People's Assembly of Southern Ecuador, in Ecuador. Is he somewhere there? I know they are there somewhere. Miguel Mijangos from the Mexican Network of Mining Affected Peoples in Mexico. Patrick Oching from the Ojama Center in Kenya. And Richard Wright, Maddie Lee Camp, the Witchan Nation House of Lutskidjus. And Queen Shachan, Ancestral Pride, Ahazan First Nations. And these are just part of the different peoples that you're going to be hearing and the different stops that we are going to have on the way. The Toxic Tour is organized by the Mining Justice Alliance, the Café Rebelde Collective, the Canada-Philippines Solidarity for Human Rights, the Council of Canadians, No One is Illegal, Rising Tide, and it is endorsed by practically everyone here in the city. So why not endorse it and why not be part of this Toxic Tour? I'm not going to go on the list because it's very long, believe me. It's pages and pages of people that are endorsing it, might not be able to come here or sending delegations, but they are definitely spreading the word of what is happening in our city. What is the Toxic Tour? Vancouver claims to be on the path of becoming the greenest city in the world. It is also home to the world's largest conglomeration of mining companies. Communities affected by Canadian extractive projects increasingly report conflict, environmental devastation, water toxicity, and scarcity, violations of Indigenous rights and other human rights abuses, including violent repression, even murder, of residents who speak out in opposition to extractive projects. But instead of regulating extractive practices, Canada's government actively assists extractive corporations with tax breaks, subsidies, lax stock market regulations, diplomatic support, and immunity from prosecution of abuses overseas. So, Shane, what about if we start the Toxic Tour speaking about that shame? And we are gonna start moving, but before we move, I'd just like to tell you, you are invited to get some of the food that is just here beside us. And I'm gonna start with some other friends, some other compañeros, some chantings, just to start pumping the tour. In the meantime, we are gonna get the sound system picked up as we start moving. You can eat something, and please join in the chantings so we all participate in we are going. So we start with the chantings. So what about have you heard those chantings that say, yes to nature, no to contamination? Can you repeat that? If I say, yes to nature, no to contamination, Yes to nature, no to contamination. Yes to nature, no to contamination. Yes to nature, no to nature.
For those tourists who came with us from SFU, from the State of the Extractives Conference, you already heard a bit of the story about the company called Pacific Rim, Vancouver-based company that through death and destruction tried to impose a mine in El Salvador. The government stood up to it, and they moved against it through the World Trade Organization tribunals. I mentioned that it had been sold to an Australian company. The Australian company still apparently has a small office here, Oceana Gold, and so it's not a key stop here. We can proceed with the driving, but we will be pointing out small features along the way, such as Oceana Gold.
Pacific Rim, Oceana Gold, Pacific Rim, Oceana Gold, out of the Philippines and El Salvador. Pacific Rim, Oceana Gold, out of the Philippines and El Salvador.
Thank you, Wilson. Wilson is from one of the organizations that has been very active in helping support El Salvador in their defense of their country. The Salvadoran state has been trying to stand up to Oceana Gold. Wilson is very active in the movement to support them. And now we're going to get close to Imperial Metals, and Christy Concessions is going to tell you all about it.
This is me, and this is us, and all I wanna do is bust.
Okay, so we are approaching Imperial Metals, and you're not going to hear very much from me. I'd really just like to introduce some other people who can speak to this. I'm going to pass the mic over to Canahus here, and I think she's got some great cheers we can do in the interim.
We're gonna do this chant. It's gonna say, I'll say no mining, and you're gonna say on unceded lands. Okay, let's try this out. No mining on unceded lands. 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 No mining.
So as we approach Dunsmuir Street, we come close, finally, to the lair of Imperial Metals. Imperial Metals has been in the news a lot, mainly because of the Mount Poly mine and the tailings spill into the entire Fraser River system. But they're also in conflict with Indigenous nations in many parts of the province. So we're going to take a brief pause here on the corner, and a number of brothers and sisters from the different communities will be doing a presentation. And then Sashin will be speaking on behalf of the work that the Ahusat First Nation is doing around Mount Poly's Catface mine over in Clayquot Sound. Leila Darwish will be saying a few words about the struggles around the issues of Imperial Metals' role in other parts. And Douglas Gook from the Quesnel River watershed will be speaking a little bit about the impact that Mount Poly has had on their territory. At least we think that's how it's going to work.
He was just next. I even know he's going to stop here.
Okay, so we're going to take a pause here, and we invite people to gather in a circle around the intersection. Maybe the truck can brake here to leave space. And there will be some dancers and drummers in the center of the intersection.
Give it up to this beautiful theatrics, a silent display of what's happening in our territories right now. So we saw words like disconnection, money. So these are the things that we're here for. We're here because we are fighting against mining. I'm from the Secwepemc Nation. My name is Conahus. Our territory starts maybe around 4.5 hours from here. It's beautiful, pristine, mountains, lakes, moose, salmon, clean water. This is what we are fighting for. It is our water. In our territory, we had one of the worst environmental mining disasters, the Mount Poly disaster that happened on August 4th. This is our battlefield. This is how they're fighting Indigenous people, is they're destroying our lands. Because without our lands, we have nothing. We have no people, we have no culture. We have no salmon, we have no moose to continue to feed our children for thousands of years the way the salmon have. The DNA of the salmon is in our blood. This water here on our territories, we're not going to get any more clean water. The same water that's here when the dinosaurs were here is the same water that we have now. And everybody needs to stand up. This should be packed with people that are outraged about Mount Poly. That water and that mining tailings waste has not stopped flowing into Quesnel River. Quesnel River flows right into the Fraser River that everybody here depends on, that comes through here. 63% of the province of British Columbia depend on that Fraser River watershed. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Indigenous people depend on that salmon that comes through the Fraser Rivers up to the spawning grounds in the inlands and the interiors that our people have defended since millennium. Imperial metals got to go. I stand here with my sister Sasheen. She's from Ohausit. They're fighting the same mining company, the exact same mining company, Imperial Metals. We're also fighting another mine, and we've been fighting Imperial Metals before the spill and trying to start a mine in the Upper Adams River area, the second largest salmon spawning grounds in the world. Tom Tom Lake. It's beautiful, it's pristine, it's clean, it's where our people go to get away from the reservation life, to break away from the colonial structures of society, so we could be Indian again, so we could be Secwepemc out on our lands. We need our homelands. It's everybody's job. I said your rent's due. That includes all Canadian citizens. Your rent is due. We have to all stand up and fight for our water. Well, Cookscham, for everybody coming here, big Cookscham, you're all amazing people to come here and help us and support us in this fight against Imperial Metals. Cookscham.
Are you pissed off yet? Because I am. Let's hear some noise. My name is Opakowitz. I come from a house in Sunamuth and Musqueam Territories. We are fighting Imperial Metals here alongside our brothers and our sisters. We are angry. These are our lands. We are unceded. We are unsurrendered. We have never given up. And yet Canada comes assault after assault with their corporations like Imperial Metals, coming to harm and hurt our children, coming to harm and hurt our lands, rape our mother like they rape our women. This is reason enough for all of us to stand up, for all of us to fight. Fight for our water, fight for our babies, fight for our future generations. If you're not angry, you're not listening. Let's hear some noise! be warriors now. We've done all the at least we can try stuff, and it hasn't worked. It's time to do a new tactic. It's time to let our warrior spirits free. It's time to get back on our land and stand in front of those machines. We have done everything that we could here in the cities. It's time for us to get back onto our lands. It's time for our allies to come and help us build. It's time to put our bodies on the line because our mouths are already there. My name is Hopakawit, and this is my lands. These are my sister's lands, my brother's lands. These are my grandchildren's lands. Let's go! Let's hear it! No mining! No mining on unceded lands! 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 No mining on unceded
China Gold has not been engaging effectively with Tibetans, and they are mining on stolen land. The parallels with Canadian Indigenous people are tragic and horrifying, and Tibetans are in solidarity. The couple of members from of the Tibetan community here, in honor of this day, in honor of all of you, and in honor of all people who are struggling within this struggle globally, I would like to do a couple of prayers. In order to make this happen, I actually need someone to help Worcester. Worcester, you need to hand off the sign to somebody. So anyone standing there needs to. The first prayer is a prayer in support of and in honor of all beings, and for healing of all beings and for the earth. The second prayer is again one of healing and of trying to bring clarity and wisdom to all beings in the hope that all beings, including the owners of these corporations, the investors, the abusers, all of us and all of them, this prayer will hope to bring clarity, bring wisdom, bring them to a place of behaving better in this world for all humans and for all other beings in this world, ultimately to attain enlightenment. First step, clarity and wisdom, and walking within that wisdom.
China Gold, stop mining in Tibet. 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 China Gold, stop mining in Tibet.
China Gold, stop mining in Tibet. China Gold, stop mining in Tibet. China Gold, stop mining in Tibet.
Tibet's resources belongs to Tibetan. Tibet resources belongs to Tibetans. 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 We have 137 self-immolated inside Tibet because of China's repressive regime inside Tibet. That happened since March 2011 till now. And China is looting Tibet. The whole world, please stand up for Tibet and free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Thank you for your support.
If you look straight ahead, you'll see a lovely view of the North Shore Mountains, some of what makes Vancouver such a beautiful city, but we're not going to go down to them. We're going to swing a left here on Pender Street. So far, our tour has mainly focused on mining. Mining because we don't have to walk very far. There's a mining company at every step. However, mining in Canada is only part of the extractivist model. Gas, oil, pipelines are also an integral part of it. And so we're going to change the tune a little here and have a look at some of the things that are going on in mining and gas. Our upcoming stop is going to be Chevron. There's a lot to tell you about Chevron, but we're going to have a bit of a pause so that the drummers can be heard. And then as we approach Chevron, when we head down West Pender, we'll tell you a little bit of background. And there's a number of people here that have a bone to pick with Chevron. People from Ecuador, people from all over this province. And they're going to tell you a little bit about what the issues they have with Chevron. Thanks. Chevron Canada's been getting itself in all sorts of problems lately. In Ecuador, and I cannot miss, right next to it on our left is Petronas, which is Malaysia's national petroleum company. Oh, on your right, my left. That one. It's heavily invested in Christy Clark's LNG dream and working to push fracking and LNG pipelines all across the province. Their partners in this activity are here on your right. Chevron, if this is 1050. Chevron in Ecuador, as I was mentioning earlier, when it was called Texaco, flooded much of the Shuar people's area of the Amazon with oil spills. So you go to the Amazon to this day, in that area, you'll find, it's to our left, 1050 Chevron. You'll find large pits of oil, looking a bit like the debris tar sands. The Ecuadorian indigenous people in that region tried for decades to get compensation. They went to the U.S. courts. Chevron argued that it wasn't an issue for the U.S. courts, it should be heard in the Ecuadorian courts. They went to Ecuador. Chevron said, well, that's no good here because now you have an anti-corporation government in power. And in Ecuador, the courts did rule, and they found Chevron guilty and ordered them to pay $15 billion in compensation. Chevron said, forget it, we're leaving the country. And so the Shuar people have followed Chevron to Canada, and they have a court case now in a court in Toronto demanding that Chevron's assets in Canada be turned over to the Shuar people in payment for the devastation they did in the Amazon. But not just in Ecuador is Chevron adventuring. Here in BC, they've become a key player in the pipeline and oil and gas developments here. And we have a couple friends from the north who want to tell us a little bit about their work in resisting the expansion of pipelines throughout the Northwest.
I am Frida Houston from Woodstock Camp, spokesperson appointed by my hereditary chief. Our people have been living on a blockade for going on 4 years, but we've had the blocked out for 6 years. And Chevron is still trying to put a project through our territory, even though our people have said no. The hereditary chiefs said 100% no to their project, so they have gone to Indian Act bands who do not have jurisdiction on our territory. They are just like municipalities that have a boundary around the reservation. They only make decisions within that reservation. There's no pipelines going through any reservation, and yet they have signed 16 agreements thinking that this is the green light for them to go ahead. But my people are still saying, no, we have the jurisdiction, we have the final say. There will be no pipeline through my people's territory.
Denise youth, Dr. youth, Father youth. My name is Pogasai. I'm one of the hereditary chiefs of the Laksamasu people. And we've been working together with I'm talking as loud as I can. My name is Pogasai. I'm a hereditary chief of the Laksamasu. We're working together with the Unisotan to stop all the pipelines from coming through our territory. Like Frida said, we've lived out there for 4 years now. And in order for people to come through our territories, they have to answer a series of questions. And one of the most important questions that we ask the people who come into the territory is, how will your business benefit our people? This company was asked that question. They could not answer it. It took them a long time before they came up with an answer. They had a couple of workers that they sent out to try and meet with us. And one of them finally stood there and said, well, I don't think it's going to benefit your people. And that made our decision quite easy after that. We just said, well, that makes it easy for us. We're going to have to turn you around and send you back. I think it's really important that we begin moving towards a decolonized community of people from all walks of life, from all types of jobs and professional backgrounds. We need to start walking into a future that doesn't just symbolically and tokenize Aboriginal title. We need to materialize it. When the city of Vancouver said that they're declaring Vancouver unceded Coast Salish Territory, they should have handed over a lot of city property to the local people here, the Indigenous people, but they didn't do that. In order for us to walk into a decolonized future, we have to start thinking and believing and working hard towards the future that will bring justice to the Indigenous people who were displaced. But that's going to start now. It started out in our traditional territories, and we're encouraging other Indigenous people to do the same. In order for us to rise up, we have to assert ourselves and take our lands back. How about that?
I'd like to invite Richard Wright up from Madi Lee camp, resistance camp.
Hi all, great turnout for the Toxic Tour. Petronas is an investor for the Prince Rupert gas transmission line, and they have announced that they want to begin construction on the Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline this summer. They will make their final decision, so we are going to have a pretty good fight on our hands because we are not going to let this pipeline through our land. We have a lot of plans to expand our camp and follow suit with Unistoten and occupy our land, control our land from here on in.
I'd like to invite up Luis Corral from the Assembly of the Peoples of Southern Ecuador to give you a little bit more information about what I mentioned about Ecuador.
¡Viva Ecuador! ¡Jamás será vencido! ¡Jamás será vencido! Un gusto estar aquí con todos. It's a great pleasure to be here in this manifestation for the life of the Mother Earth. I thank you, all of you, to be together. We need to establish a network around the world against those companies that are really killing our environment, are killing our people, are killing our indigenous people. We have just won a very difficult process, legal process, 15 years, and the people from Ecuador that was affected by Texaco has won this legal process. So a big applause to those people from Ecuador that are fighting against Texaco. Now Texaco should pay for all the damage that has made in Ecuador. I will ask you, all of you, to make a yucaso. Yucaso, you know what yucaso means? Yucaso is this. So, 1, 2, 3, yucaso to Texaco. Now, I just want to say 2 more words. Ecuador is world known, I don't know, here in Vancouver, as the pioneer country to defend the rights of nature. Rights of nature is established in Ecuador, in the Constitution. We have in Ecuador a so-called socialist country. with Rafael Correa Delgado. I don't know if you have heard about this socialist government, but in fact it's not socialist. In fact, Rafael Correa and his government is affecting the rights of the people, the rights of the nationalities. The government of Ecuador is affecting the rights of nature. The government of Ecuador is affecting the well-being, the summa causa, a paradigm. So I would like you all to help us to let this image from Ecuador in the real situation. We are not really a country that is trying to get out the capitalism. The socialism in Ecuador is more capitalism, more destruction for all over the country. Our people is really in a very difficult situation because now is going to be inaugurated a new era, the era minera, the mining era. So what is affecting Guatemala, Mexico, Salvador, Peru is now going to affect our country. We are against this model of destruction, and I think that today and the next days, tomorrow, maybe we are going to establish a big relationship between the people of the world. Thank you very much. And another Yucaso to Texaco, please.
We told you you learn new gestures on this trip. So just so that in case people are getting worried that we're going to be walking around this city forever, we have 2 more stops left.
Nature is not for sale.
We're going to be turning left up.
We are people, you are hell. Earth is not for sale. We are people, you are hell.
We tour guides are trained for that.
I just wanted to make sure I had my facts straight here. Yes, Barrick is the world's biggest mining company, and it has operations in North America, South America, Australia Pacific, the Middle East, and Africa. It's also, Barrick Gold has many subsidiaries, and they own a number of controversial projects, including the North Mara mine. That has been a lot of folks have lost their lives around that project, and so we'd like to invite first Patrick to come up and speak a little bit. Patrick Ocheng joins us from Kenya, and he's going to speak a little bit to Barrick.
First, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to come to this territory that is unceded. I feel so part of this territory. And I want to say something little about barbaric gold, and she's calling it Barrick. But for most of us Africans who have experienced this company, the most appropriate name for Barrick gold is barbaric gold. The image of this company is barbaric everywhere it operates, and there are so many deaths in this globe that have happened because of the barbaric stuff that barbaric gold does all over the world. In Africa, barbaric gold was very big during apartheid in South Africa, and the relationship between apartheid and barbaric gold is one that should inform anybody. If you hear barbaric gold is coming to your neighborhood, you should be very afraid. And I think we need to find a lasting solution to companies like this, because those of you who don't know, God I think comes from Africa. That is why every other natural resource that makes sense is found in Africa. And that's why barbaric gold follows Africa to every village, so that it can pick up these resources. And because we have a lot of useless politicians, barbaric gold is able to do whatever it wants to do, and it gets away with it and comes and situates itself in a nice capital like here. And I think the solidarity that we must engage each other with is how can we fight this barbarism in Vancouver so that it makes sense for ordinary folks and communities back in Africa. As we speak today, my colleague will say something little about what Barbaric Gold has just done a few months ago in Tanzania, in the Mara. She was there more recently than I was. And there are things which are happening there that are very startling. While you guys are talking about taking some of these companies to court, in our case, we're talking about being taken to court by this company. So turning the tables a little bit so that the poor are taken to court by major companies like, Barbaric. It's not an easy thing, so it's something that we need to really fight. And I just wanted us to chant the very old chant that we always chant when we are in Central America, that a people united will never be. A people will never be defeated. A people will never be defeated. A people united will never be defeated. Unidos jamás será vencido. El pueblo unidos jamás será vencido.
So can we get Bob? Oh, there you are. Bob, you're up next. So just very quickly, this mine that our friend Patrick was talking about, Barrick owns a mine in Tanzania called North Mara. And since it took over in 2006, locals say about 50 people have died. Why? Because they're digging in the waste rock for tiny flecks of gold that they can sell on the black market to make enough money not to starve, and the police are shooting them dead. That's why. And just a couple months ago, 12 courageous villagers went to take African Barrick's gold subsidiary to court, to the Supreme Court of England. And Barrick had been going around the villages, intimidating people and buying them off, so that they wouldn't have to face up to the fact that they're liable for all these deaths and injuries in court. Well, you know what Barrick did? They bought the remaining 12 people off, and we're not sure what the conditions on the ground were at the time. But that just shows you how much power they have. Now, how many people here are paying taxes in Canada? We're all subsidizing Barrick. All our money is going into these tax subsidies that are helping Barrick finance these killings across the world. So I want everybody to just yell one more time, shame on Barrick. Shame on Barrick. Shame on Barrick. Shame on Barrick. And also a public service announcement, please don't stand in front of the truck because we keep almost running people over. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a real privilege and an honor, and I'm very grateful to be here. I really want to thank the organizers for doing this. It's a great idea. We feel very isolated in Nevada, where I've been working on mine accountability issues for over 30 years. Our biggest target has been Barrick, because they are the biggest polluter in the state of Nevada. If you look at the volume of toxic waste that they put out, according to the EPA, just one of their mines is going to cut off the migratory deer route and put at great risk, in fact, decimate 23% of the entire deer herd of our state. In terms of the taxes that they pay, one of their mines, they bring in $135 million a year from that in gold, and they pay zero taxes, mining taxes, to our state general fund. So they're tax dodgers as well. But one thing we've heard about from throughout the world is how Barrick, after 500 years, has become very adept at colonizing. And they're very good at that. And in Nevada, the Carlin Trend is arguably the most richest gold deposit in the world. 70 million ounces coming out of that. And that's Western Shoshone land. And one of Barrick's most profitable and their largest gold mines in the world is on Secus on sacred ground, Mount Denebo, which is the homeland of Mary and Carrie Dan. And I was just out there with Carrie Dan on Tuesday. And I asked her what we should say to Barrick, and she said, F Barrick. And she, you know, that mountain keeps coming down and down and down, all for the sake of profits. And it's where they got their creation stories. And the Barrick is now trying to get all the tribes in Nevada to sign benefit agreements where in exchange for money, they will not protest any future expansion. They've bought off our state government, our legislature, our governor, and the only thing standing in complete colonization and take over our state are the sovereign tribes, and they're holding out. And I think gatherings like this really gives people a lot of hope. So for all you're doing to build an economy, a world, a culture that puts our people and our planet ahead of these corporations like Barrick, I thank you and I commend you onward.
Thanks. We're going to invite Beth Dayaga from the Philippine Canadian Human Rights Association to come up. But just a little bit of news flash while we're waiting. I think probably a number of people were surprised when the Conservative government's foreign minister, John Baird, resigned suddenly recently. I think even Stephen Harper was a bit surprised by that. One of the brothers in the group here just passed a news item. John Baird is now on the board of advisors of Barrick, where he joined former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and U.S. former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. So you get a really clear image there of how the country's run. While Beth comes up to speak, I also want to just put a shout out to the brother worker over here who's cleaning the building and shut down his machine so that we could hear properly. So thank you very much, brother. Take it away, Beth.
I'd like to read a letter from our community on their behalf, and I'm honored and humbled to do this, to give their voices. And this is a letter addressed to Jamie Solakalski, the president and CEO of Barrick Gold Corporation. It was hand-delivered and emailed to them. And it says, Dear Mr. Jamie Solakalski, we the Mining Justice Alliance, a group of Vancouver residents who are concerned about the fashion in which Vancouver-based mining companies conduct themselves elsewhere in Canada and around the world, would like to notify you that we are carefully scrutinizing the circumstances surrounding your operations in the Philippines. On October 4 of 2005, the provincial government Marinduque sued Mark Copper's parent company, Placer Dome, for $100 million in damages. Placer Dome was purchased in 2006 by your company, the Barrick Gold, which has now been included in the lawsuit. For 16 years, the Marinduque Mark Copper Company dumped its toxic wastes into the shallow bay of Calacan River, filling it with 200 million tons of toxic tailings. When exposed to the ocean breezes, the tailings become airborne and land on the rice fields, in open wells, and on village homes. The locals apparently call this as the snow from Canada. This snow from Canada, consisting of mine tailings, has forced 59 children to undergo traumatic lead detoxification in the Philippine capital of Manila. The irresponsible mining practices are not unlike Barrick's current operations also in Papua New Guinea, where mining tailings are dumped into a river system that are not monitored until 165 kilometers downstream. It is our understanding that the locals who live near the Porgera mine simply want to be resettled to another area where they do not have to deal with the hazards caused by the mine waste, and hope that they will be resettled before more people die or get sick. In Chile, we are aware that the mine is threatening the water source of people living in the Huasco Valley, which depends on agriculture. We also know that in gaining approval for the mine, Barrick has violated the free, prior, and informed consent of the Diguata Huascolitinos people who have filed a case against Chile in the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights for this violation. This case has been admitted by the Commission, which indicates that the Daguita have exhausted all local legal means available to them to seek justice on this matter. As Canadians, we feel morally obligated to voice our concern, not to stand idly as an extractive transnational corporations operating out of the city of Vancouver take advantage of the immunity afforded to them by our archaic judicial system, which prohibits those affected by these corporations' abuses from seeking redress for their grievances in Canada. Henceforth, any aggravation of the situation in the proximity of your mine will be diligently and vehemently conveyed to the Canadian public, like this, what we're doing now, so your investors will be made aware of the context within you are continuing to operate. We urge your company to complete an environmental cleanup and to adequately compensate Marinduque affected communities and to take steps to prevent future disasters wherever you operate in the world. The people in the Philippines as well elsewhere in the world, they said, mind your own business. We don't need you ugly Canadians.
Well, let's see, we could probably start getting going. We'll start moving head forward. We're turning left on Burrard Street to the daddy of all mining companies, Goldcorp. For a lot of people that don't follow mining issues, Goldcorp may be one of the only companies you've ever heard of. Because anywhere you go in the city, there's the Goldcorp Center for the Arts, the Goldcorp Center for Mental Health, Goldcorp sponsor of Bar on the Beach, Goldcorp sponsor of the Vancouver Opera, Goldcorp sponsor of Arts Umbrella. What a wonderful company putting out money everywhere. But then we start to have to ask, where do they get that money from to buy all this free advertising? They write it off their taxes, the Goldcorp name goes out, they look great. But where does that money come from? The answer is all over the world. Goldcorp is all over. And they're particularly concentrated in Latin America, in Argentina, in the Dominican Republic, in Mexico, in Guatemala, in Honduras. They are one of the companies that has most entered into violent conflicts with communities in that region. So we have a few visitors here that are going to speak not directly about Goldcorp, but from their experience with the Canadian mining companies in that area. We have Angelica Choc, Maya Kekchi from La Unión El Estor, Guatemala. She will be speaking more briefly, because many of you heard her speak last night, those who were at the conference, about her community, her family's experience with the Canadian company Hadbe Resources. We have Miguel Mijango of the Mexican Network of Mining Affected Peoples, a network in Mexico involving many communities in resistance. Something like 75% of the mines in Mexico belong to Canadian capital. Several of them are owned by Goldcorp, and Michael will share those with us. Stephen Collis, intrepid organizer of the State Extraction Conference, but also someone who's ran into all sorts of trouble with Goldcorp. I don't know whether they didn't like his poetry or what, but at one point they tried to sue him for saying mean things about them in bad prose. His prose has improved a great deal since then. And then we will be closing up with a presentation by the Migrante Filipino group, dancers. So I'd like to invite Angelica to say a few brief words. Do you want to come up, Angelica, or would you like to come to this? ¿Quieres subir? Sí. Angelica Choc has come a very long way to come out on this truck. We should have brought a step stool for this thing. Uno, dos, tres.
¡Arriba Guatemala! ¡Arriba!
edificio. Ahí corre la sangre de mi esposo. Corren las lágrimas de mis compañeras mujeres de San Miguel Ixtahuacán. ¿Qué puedo decir de este edificio? Han robado los recursos naturales de mi país, Guatemala.
She said, what can I say about this building? This building that shines with gold, that runs with the blood of my people, that runs with the blood of the women of San Miguel Ixtahuacán, where one of Goldcorp's large mines is in northern Guatemala. She said, this huge building serves as a symbol of the Canadian mining companies, of Hudbay Resources, whose security guards murdered her husband, of the other companies operating from Canada in her country that brought so much death and destruction, that these are built from that violence, from that exploitation of the resources from her country. She said that it's important for people to work together for this struggle, that it's not the work only of Indigenous peoples, because it's not just Indigenous people who breathe, who drink the water, who use the land, that we all have the responsibility to join together and work and struggle against this. She said that it's so sad that the work of a handful of Canadian companies serves to sustain so many millions of people in this country, because now that she's spent time here, she realizes that there's many people here that are struggling for the same things that her people are.
¿Qué decir de ellos? Es lamentable. Es lamentable que lo que está sucediendo en todas partes del país, en todo el mundo. Pero yo les hago conciencia, hermanos, que aún no se unen a la lucha, a la resistencia de nuestros pueblos, de nuestros recursos. Es tiempo que nos unamos, defendamos los recursos naturales, sea donde sean. Ayudemos a los pueblos indígenas, porque no solo el pueblo indígena come, no solo el pueblo indígena bebe agua. Todos unámonos, porque un pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Porque un pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Porque un pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Si nos unamos, vamos a lograr que se respeten nuestros derechos, que se respete el derecho a la madre tierra y los recursos naturales. Eso es lo que yo puedo compartir con ustedes. Estos son lágrimas de mis compañeras y compañeros. Esto son la sangre que han derramado mis compañeros, que estas empresas han asesinado en Guatemala, como mi esposo. Pero yo no lloro la muerte de él, porque sé que derramó su sangre por algo justo de defender la madre tierra. De él estoy orgulloso, de él estamos orgullosos, porque
I'd like to invite up Kinder Morgan's favorite professor, Stephen Collins.
Thank you. Let's acknowledge that we are marching today on unceded Coast Salish Territories. Been powerful. It's always best to march behind the Indigenous drummers and let them set that beat. You feel it right inside. You feel like you could march all day. We can march around all these hundreds, even thousands of corporations. Just keep going and circle them. Goldcorp it was the first company to sue me, but not the last. So when they donated money to SFU, I wrote this poem. So it's going back to the dark days of 2010, when some of us here first heard about Goldcorp. Unlike other people you've been hearing from who've known about it in their communities for a long time, it took a little while for us to realize what criminals they are. Dear Goldcorp, consider the conditions, the rapid pace of mergers, outstripped strip mines, outsourced mines cannot hold all the tailings lighting jungles of gold. Imagine peering into the digital inferno as the guilty conscience of the global hegemon donates pocket change to education and culture and sustainability. The stains of these lies coloring the sidewalks of gentrified gold. Now step back from the precipice. It's just a poem after all, just culture tearing itself up out of love and complicity with mergers and acquisitions, Red Lake sodium sulfate polluting Los Filos and San Miguel Ixtuacan. It's a fucking gold mine, and the accumulation just doesn't get any more primitive than this. Heap leach method, cyanide method, sulfuric acid to burn water method. This is how the big boys do it. Form a carbon disclosure project, a biodiversity project. Talk sustainability, but pollute the hell out of it. Move people and profits around like plastic wrist pieces. Drain lakes and divert streams. Poison wells and remove mountains. Shoot your critics and clear the forests. And indigeny? Pshaw! Don't touch the legal tender parts, the heap money method, the drive campesinos from their land method. Dear fucked up machinery of love and consumption, we need to extract the extractors, repeal the dirty money donated, but we also need a way out of the gap we've fallen into that capital has forged between what is and what might be. Project, while outside this, gold bars clink in critical spaces, and we are digitally declared defunct, or at least less profitable, less sustainable, less material too. So don't forget your lyric valuables as you escape the disaster with all your cultured pearls and golden fleeces you can carry, Goldcorp, dear donor, dear open pit abyss. The shudder you feel. Good if I had memorized this. The shudder you feel is the shudder of all of us leaving our chairs at once and heading someplace maybe you can't buy your way in or out of. Thank you. Couple really quick things. The conference begins at 3 o'clock with a panel of Indigenous land defenders from across Western Canada. So it'd be wonderful to head back at 3 o'clock to SFU. I think there's one more performance that's going to happen here. Then after that, some people are suggesting maybe we could do a die-in and lie in the road here for a minute and think about the death that Goldcorp is wreaking everywhere in the world. Thank you.
And to get back into character, thank you all for joining the tour today. Today's tour was sponsored by the Mining Justice Alliance, but we've had so much help from other organizations that work very closely with us in the organization of this. Rising Tide, Cafe Rebelde, the Philippine Solidarity on Human Rights, No One is Illegal, the Council of Canadians, as well as generous support from the CUPE BC International Solidarity Committee. So thank you everyone. If you want to find out more about other tours you can join, other activities Mining Justice Alliance organizes, look for us at miningjusticealliance.ca, I think is our link. There's also many other groups that I mentioned earlier doing work around extractives here that where you can find other contacts and links. So thank you again everyone, and remember, Canada is known around the world now as a wonderful toxic hole. Let's see if we can dig ourselves out of it. Thank you very much.